Okay, hi. Excuse me. We're just embarking on our third big jump in layers of understanding astrology. The first level is a beginning class where you begin to find out the ocean of meaning. Everything seems so vast, there's so much, you don't know how you're going to hold it all together, and there's so much information, and then it's also vitally alive. You know it's meaningful, you don't know what to do with it. So at the end of the first class, you know the ocean is there and you've walked along the shore of it a little bit. And then we went through what I call the working classes, the classes where you have to work at your chart and develop your in-depth thinking. We went through the planets and the signs, through each of the categories. And most people just remember a few things about the signs, but I find it's vitally important to understand the categories and the layers and the steps that they are. So these different levels are different levels of depth and insight. So each planet in each category of the sign builds up the in-depth thinking of how a planet can function, how really the planet is the function. Each planet's the function. But the signs of the zodiac are the attitudes that affect the functioning. And attitudes are a very powerful, important thing. You ever try to change somebody's attitude? It's a difficult thing. Even putting up with someone's attitude is a perfect is a big thing, and everybody's got attitudes. The whole zodiac is the 12 attitudes, and from these, so their attitudes, and they put their influences onto the signs. They permeate, they kind of guide. But there's a low level, and there's all different levels of frequencies of how each of these categories can apply, from gross living to very refined living. And this is true in all of astrology. There's the gross level, there's the intermediate, there's all these layers or levels of meaning for every category. You can't presume someone's on a high level, someone on a very low level of applying these things. The purpose in our life is to find about these puzzles and begin to make the effort or the yoga of elevating our nature, of making it higher. If we can elevate it up to the nature of the gods or the planets themselves, we can even assist the gods in their work. We can align and be tuned into the heavens. And when we're doing this, it often makes us much more successful, much more fulfilled in our life. It doesn't always make it easier because it means you see the work that you have to do. But anyways, the planets are the energies, the signs bring the attitudes down onto the planets, into the functions, the attitude to memory or family, the attitude to the way you think, attitude to what your values and what you like, your attitude to your ego, your attitude or to your confidence. And it's just different stuff. They're not definitive things. They're just qualities. They're colorings that affect, because the planets in the sign, it picks up that coloring. Then, so we went through each planet, through each of the signs, each categories. I went through each of the angles in each of the signs, so that those are the main factors we have to look. So once we got the signs together, then we took the planets again. I went through each of the planets in all the categories of the houses. So the signs are the seasons of the year. The houses are the hours of the day, the phases of the day. So when in the signs, it works as attitudes. In the houses, the planets put their energy and put their energy into the affairs of the houses, into how we're anchored onto the earth, into our daily life. So it puts it into the daily life, but with the attitudes of the signs that color it. And when we do it right or do it well, these things are generally aligned. When we start, you don't have to do it the way it's suggesting, but if you do it differently, you try not to be your way, you end up accomplishing less and having a much more difficult life. So we did the planets and the signs, the planets and the houses, and then the planetary aspects, the aspects to each other, how the planets are affecting each other. So these are three levels of consciousness, three levels of dimensions of comprehension. Each planet's a level of consciousness, but these are how do we put these things together? We've got all the pieces of information. You've done the in-depth therapy of your chart. Plan in each category, what it means for you, how it works for you. And you've gone through what first time anyways, at least one level of assessment of each of these categories for you personally. This is opening up and making the connection of you being alive to astrology and being able to think in depth. But there's still so much information, but the way I teach, why I teach it this way is the main power, the main insights are coming from the planets. The signs and the houses are like rulers or scales on a slide rule almost, where you can see the other influences coming in. But each planet has such a diverse way it's affected in a sign in certain ways. It affects houses in certain ways, and it's affected by aspects in certain ways. So we've done it. We've seen all the ways this are happening. We've done it for your chart. And in the end, this is the basic fundamental of interpretation is the planets and is colored by the sign. It puts its energy into the affairs of the house and does so easily or difficultly according to the aspects made to it. That's simple. Now, there's so many techniques and so many different systems, so many different ways to interpret a chart. Most people look at a chart and they're just talking about whatever they see first. Then they start talking, they jump from one thing to another. They don't really, or they might have their system of how they prioritize which items to go at. So most of the computer reports are dealing with planets and signs and houses and aspects and put them together in some format, often by houses or by signs or by the planets organized. But there's other factors we can consider. There's more things we have to build up. And we're going to put these 30 steps of how to interpret a chart. 10 of them are just the planets and the signs and the houses and aspects. That is stuff you've already done and are familiar with. The other things are, well, there's a point system of counting points and getting quantitative analysis of how many planets are here, how many points are here, how many points in each sign, in each category, in each house. And this gives us another way of looking at the whole chart, with looking at specific planets, to seeing the energies within the whole chart. So we're going to have to go through develop this, go through this. As we do this, in this class, really, we're building the boat that can sail across the ocean of significance. So it gives us some way of navigating through this vast ocean of meaning, to have directed or guided pathways, or directed or guided course of understanding. So if you're trying to understand someone, oh, they're a Libra, or they're this, that, you can't just make one word doesn't do it. 1,000 words don't do it. A picture might come closer. Their being does it better than anything we could say. So mostly we tune in, and we're tuning into someone. When we're looking at a chart, we're tuning into their potentials, to their uniquenesses, their strengths, and their vulnerabilities. And by doing this, we see this on many layers and many levels. And by doing this, we're getting a holistic picture. We're building up this kaleidoscope of the person. And every one of our kaleidoscopes is a little bit different. But we all have all the 10 planets. We all have the sun, moon, and the planets. We have the angles. We have the houses, the signs. All these factors are in everybody's kaleidoscope. But they're all different sizes, different shapes, different things, and they come up in different perspectives. And we go through life like a spinning kaleidoscope until we find astrology and see that there's patterns and meanings to it. And there's a calendar, or a way of looking at life. So once we finish this level and we do these 30 steps of interpretation, get used to it, not complicated, and but it puts things in perspective so you can see them. You get a generally holistic view of a person. Then everything from here on in astrology a lot easier. There's not the same amount of work in any advanced classes, maybe that progress, but not like there is in these second, third, and fourth levels. They demand a lot of time. You've done it. So this is a huge benefit. So when we look at the 13 steps, we're going to go through these, and I'm going to use my chart as an example to start it, and then we're going to use a different person's chart from the class each week to work on, and you'll have the charts for the week ahead to be able to work on it and do what you can with it before the class. So we're going to go through, it's just going through the 30 steps. First is the pattern type. You look up the pattern type, and then you look up the moon phases. So the pattern type and the moon phases, they're both things you can find out and you can see without just knowing someone's birth date and year. You don't have to know the time of day, and these patterns are still more or less correct. So you get ways of understanding how someone behaves that people can relate to and make sense out of, and confirm how they're living. Just with these two things, you win them right there. So these are the first two factors: the pattern type, the moon phases, and really they're written out so you can read them and just read those ones to the person or to yourself. You can go over. Then we look at the sun, the moon, and ascendant. This is just generally the sign, the sun, moon, and ascendant. We look at the signs they're in and see the attitudes of how they're connected to each other. Nothing that deep. We're just trying to see, you know, some of the categories, how they pile up. And we're going to do this, you know, like so. You see if the sun's in Libra, moon's in Cancer, ascendant's in Virgo, then you're going to see, okay, well, their all nighttime is increasing, or they might be, their one's masculine, some are feminine. So this is just a general attitude of person, your ego, your performance, your confidence, your past, your memories that you drag along with you, the moon, and your personality, the ascendant. So there are three main factors. So we just take a few moments to think about those and to look at those and see what they are and make some sense of it. Think, how would that relate to me? How do I relate to that around it? So when we're doing our exams, you have to do the pattern type and your comments on how the pattern type relates to you. You have to do the moon phases, and you have to do comments about how you relate to it in your life. Just like the planets and the signs and the houses, just like the worksheets. This is just a step-by-step worksheet. Then you put the sun, moon, ascendant, and you make some, you notice what stands out. If they're all fire or water, or if they're spread out, or they're cardinal or fixed. I mean, you're looking at general themes with the sun, moon, ascendant. Okay, and you're trying to imagine what the kind of person is like.